Hi, so I'm gonna walk you through how I made my little Jigglypuff. As you can see, I had a lot of different colors of pink or shades of pink, but I guess this was sort of a scrap yarn project, so I chose the one that I had the most of, which turned out to be the one that was sort of the thinnest thread. But I didn't give up. I tried with a 3 millimeter crochet hook, which in the end turned out not to work because it was just too many holes, too much what you were able to see into the basically or see through it. So I had to go down a size. So I took a 2 millimeter crochet hook and it worked much better. However, this means, tighter stitches, but also like more stitches if I wanted to be, I was aiming for at least so you can have it in your hand. And that's also the what the result ended up to be. So I'm happy with that. But it's gonna take some time to get all of those rows around. So bear with me. I am speeding forward here when I'm going through all these rows, but I have also tried to write the full pattern on the screen. So just take a screenshot if you feel like you want to take your time here. It's a part one and part two, or like one side and two sides of the head slash body, because as we know, Jigglypuff is a round pink ball basically. So, well, it's which makes it a little bit easier, I think. You don't need to do two things, just one. So yeah, I just kept working with single crochets all the way around and tried to increase where I, needed. I ended up using actually, I think is it a cricket bowl, I think, to just measure around a little bit, just to have something to measure from, because I was creating this pattern from scratch. I know that there are a lot of different patterns out there on how to make Jigglypuff, but I just, because I didn't have the exact yarn and because I wasn't going to buy yarn for this project, I ended up just wanting to, well, the truth is, I thought, how hard can it be? And I will tell you, the hair is the hardest part for me here, and I will end up not filming it. I did film it first, and then I took it off, and then I started over off camera, and that's what I went with. And I think there are room for improvements, but I'm going with it. I think it turned out cute. So if you like it, then stick around and I'll tell you at least or show you at least the pattern for it. But as you can see, it takes a little time to do these rows, and you probably saw there my cricket bowl that I'm using as a little Jigglypuff measurement for head slash body. And yeah, this is the only part where I will show you as like how I did this for so long, because I just wanted you to understand how much time it took for me to just, make this little bowl. Oh gosh. But I think if you imagine if you would have a thicker yarn, something like a chenille yarn or something, I mean, you could, this one, if you just use the exact pattern that I have obviously created, you will have just a much, much bigger Jigglypuff, which I think would be pretty cool. But yeah. So my thought after making the round body here, and this you can see now finally getting the sides of this round bowl coming to, you will see it at least. I realized that I needed to make, well, I needed to create the eyes and ears and etc., because the filling or wadding or whatever you call it that I have is a pure cotton one, and I've mentioned this before, but it's kind of tough to sew through that. So you sort of want to do any kind of sewing before you stuff whatever you're creating. So I created a bit more just so I know where, so I will have somewhere to sew on some eyes and a mouth. But I will end up pausing the creating of the body here in maybe row, I think I stopped around row 26 in, or 27, and I didn't fill up or stuff it up at all, just because I needed to make the eyes and everything and sew that on before I could continue. I did end up waiting with the ears, just because I felt that it was a little bit tricky when I had not stuffed the body slash head to sort of really know exactly where I wanted those ears, so I did end up stopping myself to do that. But here you can see me making the eyes, and it's very simple, just 8 single crochets in a magic ring, and then I increased in every stitch, and then I did a row of white before, finishing it and being happy with it. Now, I didn't have the perfect blue color. I think you need sort of a turquoise kind of color, but I ended up with just going with the lighter blue that I had. And after I've made this, I actually found one color that I think would have suited better, but I wasn't going to redo or unattach or do anything crazy. Like, I was happy with what I had. So making sure that I made two, of course, and probably should add that to the pattern. I realize now because, yeah, I think I've added it, or do I need to add it maybe on the arms and legs too? We'll see. But obviously, two eyes and two arms, two legs. So the eyes was very quick and easy to make. Now, I can't tell you exactly where on the bowl I ended up sewing them on, but you will see sort of where I measured out where I wanted them to be, and sort of like where I added the mouth later. I ended up also making the ears, even though I ended up sewing them on later, just to like sort of get some kind of idea where I want to maybe add them. So yeah, the eyes would end up sort of where I wanted it to be. So I ended up doing obviously two ears, and I should probably also add that to the pattern and make two. But of course, I think you understand that. If you've crocheted before or made any amigurumi before, I'm not gonna tell you every row and repeat what I've written, because I think you can just pause the video and take a screenshot if you really if you're curious on how I did this. I was first thinking actually to stuff those ears as well, because I was just thinking, oh, cone ears. But then my husband stopped me and told me, no, 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 you're not stuffing those. They are not that kind of ears. So yeah, here you can see at least how I'm trying to sort of measure out where I want everything to be. And even though I'm not stuffing the ears, I'm flattening them, etc. That's how they look then. But I did add that black part that Jigglypuff has in her ears as well. So I made two flat, basically triangles. I used or made these stitches, but if you feel like you want to change, you can do so, because I ended up feeling like maybe I did maybe one row too much. Like maybe I had that row of 10. Maybe that was a little bit too much. Maybe I should have had just, skip it, because once I sew it, suited. What's the term? What's the anyway? You understand what I'm saying? Once it was on the pink one, I saw that it was a little bit too much, but I don't know. I think it worked out anyway. I'm not sure if it's bothered me too much later on. Here you can see at least how I am sewing on the eyes. I was basically happy where I placed them, and just basically just simple stitches all the way around. And I made sure to do that on both eyes before I started to sew or embroidering before I started to embroider the mouth. Wow, it's hard to speak. But I'm hoping you understand what I'm saying. At least you have some visuals to guide you as well. And you want that mouth, that cute little mouth, to be basically between the eyes. Now you could, if you wanted to as well, have a little like white like dot or so on the blue part of the eyes, just to make it a little bit more, I guess, closer to the actual character. But I guess I was too tired at this point, so I did not do that. But I made it very simple when I made the mouth, and I just basically just to one stitch, I guess, and just dragged it down with the thread a little bit, and that I made sure to secure everything from like on the inside with just regular knots, because that's nothing you would see anyway, and it wouldn't be something that would be visual once you stuff the whole head or slash body as well. And here is the fun part, I think. This was the most fun to see actually everything coming together. And as you can see, this cotton is very dense. However, I did make sure to stuff this head slash body extremely well, just because I really wanted it to not lose its shape when my daughter, whose gift this was going to play with it. And here you can see where I continue just following the pattern of the head slash body. And it was kind of cute to see it all round and stuffed up like this. But now the hard part was to figure out where to place the ears, basically. So as you can see, it was a little bit extra row there with the black, but I don't know if it's bothering me too much. When you're adding those ears, you want to make sure that you bend the sides in a little so you get like sort of a half moon kind of shape, if you can see what I'm saying here. And then the I guess the measurement or the amount of stitches that you want between the ears is a little bit hard to say, but imagine you're going to have a little hair in between, but you don't want them to be too far away from each other either. So you have to play around a little bit and maybe before you sew it on. And here I can see now making the legs. I need to write into the pattern that I need 2 legs, but they are also it was the easiest one of the easiest things to do on this little amigurumi. The legs were never stuffed with anything. They're just basically flat because I didn't want them to bulk up if she wanted to play with it and have it basically being able to sit. So I kept them flat, but I did end up just putting it just a little bit of that filling or stuffing in the arms, because the arms, if I looked at the character on the images and such, she seems to have like a bit of a rounded, coney looking arms. So I wanted to have that as well when I had the finished amigurumi in place. So just two cute little feet and then some cute arms. So these are the ones that basically took no time at all to create. I would say the one that took the longest was basically the head slash the body and also the hair, because I had to redo the hair because I wasn't happy with how it ended up to be. And here you can see I've attached or just basically sewn the ears together. And this is the hair, and you can stop and pause and see the pattern exactly. But I ended up like basically filling it up only 50% because I really wanted to be able to push it onto the body and shape it properly when I sewed it on. And I will show you not how I have sewn it on, but I will see how it looks now as a finished little product. And as you can see, I'm like that hair or is like almost pushed on to the head. It's not as round once you've sewn it on. And I think it turned out really cool. You have to play around with how much you think you will have to stuff that hair with, but I feel like I don't know how I did it, but I think it went perfect. And then I just forced it when I was like sewing it around, just forced it and made it really tight, so it really was stuck there. So that's how I made my Jigglypuff. I hope you like it. And yeah, I hope you have a good time. And if you try it out, don't forget to tag me. And I hope I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment.